Hey, what's up guys, and welcome back to Anime King. And today I'm going to be giving you part 2 of what if Naruto had the red Rinnegan and was neglected. Remember to get this one to 300 likes as usual, share this to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also guys, stay in tune because I'm going to be posting a new episode of What If Naruto became the god of wind on this channel. So stay tuned for that, and I hope you guys do enjoy. And over on Anime King 2, I'm going to be posting a new episode of What If Naruto learned the clone secret in the beginning. And what if Naruto's an OP Seal Master, so stay tuned for that as well guys. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice, and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. Remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying talking back to all of you. So yeah, without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro. So a bit of recap from the last part we left off. Minato had gave away his twins, Naruto and Naruko, to Orochimaru for them to become loyal subjects of Konoha. For Orochimaru to run tests on them because Minato didn't care one bit. Naruko only had the soul of the Kyuubi inside of her, so she wasn't much useful in Orochimaru's eyes. But Naruto had all the power inside of him. So to make him stronger by anger or grief, they killed Naruko right in front of him and let her bleed out right there, while Naruto was in his cell. As Naruto hadn't moved since that happened, until Kabuto came and take away her body, while the Soul Ninjas laughed as it went on. Orochimaru then came to run his daily tests, but that was when Naruto showed his eyes, his red Rinnegan, as he used the universal pull and started to beat Orochimaru's head against the bars, before ripping his soul from his body. As Naruto broke all of the bars with all of the slaves inside. As Kabuto and the others then came, Naruto ripped off Kabuto's legs and his arms and tossed him, as all the slaves then beat him to death. As the rest of the stone ninjas came, and all of them were crushed without mercy. 7 years passed after that, as Minato had sent Jiraiya to investigate, and the only thing that was left of the hidden stone was a giant crater. He believed that Naruto was dead, so he wasn't much concerned, but he hated the twins, as after their birth, it made Kushina go insane, thus to see his wife in the insane asylum. Trapped in a straitjacket, it was just too hard for him to bear. But he had one last kid with Kushina before she went completely insane, and that was Minato Jr., which he loved so much, as Jiraiya has found signs of these strange cults, and one of them were a woman that he knew, Karen Uzumaki, a girl that she was a part of Orochimaru's studies. As Minato told Jiraiya to look into it further, we then went to the Sky Palace where Naruto and his subjects, as 10 of them, 10 of his loyal subjects were with him. They were the one that helped him create this palace, as it was in the air by seals and all kinds of motors. The place was large, hundreds of thousands of people was already on it, and Naruto was a true king of it. It was time that they start domination over the world, as all the spies inside of Kumo begin their charge, as Naruto headed there personally as well. As the Raikage was in his office not aware that anything was going on outside, they cut the communication, everything, so he was unaware as Mabe was captured, his secretary. She was shocked when she saw the man that came there, those red eyes that stared at her as he told her that he had some big plan for her, as Mabe shaking in fear under his stare. Blowing out the Raikage door, the Raikage was surprised who the hell was this, as he tried to challenge Naruto, but he stood no chance, as Naruto simply grabbed him and threw him through the window, floating above the people, holding the Raikage by his throat after absorbing all of his chakra. The Raikage told him that he will never get away with it, and Yujito would revenge him. But Naruto told him he already won, as he snapped the Raikage's neck with tremendous force, Yujito and B were facing off against Naruto other soldiers when the both of them were captured in a strange cube that sucked all of their Biju power away. And also Naruto has recovered the soul of the Kyuubi and placed it into a body, making it change a lot as she was now his personal servant. She was eternally grateful for him for rescuing her soul. But still, he couldn't get Naruko's soul, as the Shinigami just wouldn't let it go. But the next place for him to go now was Spring, as he would like to see how their chakra armor would do against his soldiers, to let his man have their fun. So yeah guys, that was basically last where we left off. You guys can switch across to the place and check it out for yourself. So, what is to begin this new episode? Spring Country was beautiful. This time of the season, the air was calm and serene, blowing through the wonderful landscape, filled with lush grasses and flourishing trees. Naruto had heard that a group of Konoha ninja had taken the rule from Dodo. He was the uncle to the now ruler of the country, Koyoke Kazahana. Before it was nothing but pure ice, but the Konoha ninjas liberated this place and gave the rule back to Koyoke. Quite frankly, Spring Country now remind him of his floating home, Sakai, but on a much smaller scale and less developed. Even though there was a large resources on Sakai, large buildings, they still have a wild, fluscious animal life, as he had the peoples to make sure that nothing happened to the animals in the wildlife. That was how large a place was. So these thoughts made Naruto didn't want to harm the beauty of this country. Pain, teach us who we are. Those words echo inside of his mind. That was the first lesson that Orochimaru taught him when he was 3 years old. You can't really live until you die a little. As he stepped out of the royal vehicle as he stopped in the middle of the road leading towards the country, as he didn't put on his royal helmet as he started to step forward, Nirvana Kuroko was a usually outgoing 19-year-old girl, always smiling and laughing, and even talking to herself sometimes in the presence of others, creating the image that she was a mad inventor. And not to mention her multicolored hair and her 2 different eyes and the way she spoke. But she liked that image. It made her feel like she had an identity amongst the soldiers of Sakai army. When she was a slave, it was like she was a blur blob, and everyone else was a blur blob as well. So she didn't really have any identity. But now that she has gotten the attention of our lord and becoming one of the top 10s, she stood out a lot. But in the presence of her master, she acted rather decent as she was behind him, her head down, walking. Allegiance over 1,000 soldiers behind them, not even hiding their presence, and Naruto with his helmet not on. They were going straight into the spring. Sir, said Nirvana, as Naruto looked over his shoulder, before turning back, showing that he had acknowledged her. Pardon me, but if I may be so curious to ask, why you want me to accompany you here? Her head then shot up as she realized what she said. Not that it's not an honor to accompany you here, my lord Naruto. I am merely inquisitive, because it's usually Shinigura who escort you. Naruto motioned for her to walk beside him as she stepped forward, as he placed his right hand on her shoulder. Tell me, Nirvana, what makes Spring Country stand out on this continent of legends? Her mind was a bit hazy as his hand was on her shoulder, but she stuttered out a reply. Their chakra armor, my lord. Correct, you're the best person I know that can fully analyze their armor and find a kink in it. You see, you are just as important here as you are holed up in your lab all day. As he patted her shoulder, then removed his hand, he did not want her to pass out on him. I had Shinigura stay back to supervise the takeover of the Lightning Capital. The other 2 heads can look over how to command the country by themselves. She will need me after I subdue Spring. It is well known when the capital of country fell, the entire country will follow after. There will be a little resistance from the other part of the country, but not as much that we receive from the capital. I am humbled by your thoughts of me, my lord, she said. As Naruto then turned back, they could already hear the alarms going off as they saw a sea of humanity coming, with one figure leading all of them. After taking over Kumo so easily, his expectations weren't really high for this place. He raised his hand as all the soldiers stopped. There was a group of over hundreds of Spring Shinobis. You will speak for me, Naruto said. Yes, my lord, she said with a bow. Naruto couldn't wait for all of Lightning Country and his resources to come. Under his power, he trusted his 2 division head to act for him. And if the country posed a problem, all he had to do was say the word, and dozens of trucks from the Inventor Division would rain down bombs on the country. And the Foy Jutsu Division would make sure that the people there all stay inside so they would be completely destroyed. His soldiers didn't just die for him, they live for him. They breed for him. So he was not in the mood for having his people fight over dominance for a long period of time. If the place hesitate for too long, he would just simply wipe it off of the face of the earth. His plans for world destruction were still there, maybe after he got his fill of entertainment, but he was still going for world domination right now. After the events of Sound, he would admit that he lost his soul because his sister had died in his presence. But with all the experiments they did on him, all the twisted things, they turned him to this, someone who enjoys seeing destruction and chaos. And he led an army of people that would do anything for him. Wars was not something you run away from. He caused all the wars. He stood over the dead bodies of his foes that he slaughtered, and those who dared to defy him. And not that he would have to lift a finger, his soldiers would do the fighting himself. But when he felt like it was necessary, he stepped down from his throne to show this world how powerful he truly is. Right now, he didn't need to fight, but it's just because he wanted to. As he remembered asking Orochimaru if he was ready to destroy the world. Orochimaru told him that he wouldn't live that long, but he was wrong. The answer is yes, he will destroy the world. But not yet, there was still a lot of entertainment he could squeeze out of them. After he had his fun, he would just simply drop a bomb on the entire planet. Something that would just rip it apart completely. Yes, that would be satisfying. And then he can move with his people out into space. And maybe even find different planets, different worlds to conquer and destroy. The possibilities to come were endless. And these torture, the suffering, that is what made the man in front of them now. As Naruto looked over at Nirvana, she gave him a small smile. He knew that she already had a way to bypass the armor. She was the best choice to bring here. As he nodded for her to walk forward and meet the incoming ninjas. "That's close enough," she shouted and held up a palm as they stopped. The shinobis chuckled, and they were also confused. This is the girl trying to order them around after they tried to step in here. And also her wild, multicolored hair was a bit funny and goofy. Behind her, Naruto crossed his arms over his chest and allowed her to speak for him. The spring ninjas decided to humor her. "State your name and your purpose." "My name is Nirvana Kuruku, Platinum Rank Ninja, and head of the Invention Division, and I am the honored speaker of our great king of Sakai Kingdom, the almighty sovereign of the sky, the immortal master of the sixth path, Lord Naruto." As the warriors behind Naruto chanted his name 4 times with their fists raised, as Nirvana ordered for them to go silent. "We are here to take control of your country in our Lord's name." As everything went silent for a few seconds, before the spring ninjas started to laugh, throwing their head back in a mad amusement, as a tick mark came on Nirvana's head. "What an idiot. I think it's best for you and your Lord Naruto to turn your ass around and crawl back into whatever hole you came out of," the man at the front said. But Naruto didn't give him any reaction. But Nirvana, she was different. "You would pay for your insolence." "Yeah, sure," the man said. "Standard formation," she yelled, as the soldiers behind her stomped on the ground as they started to march. The bronze ranks stood at the front, followed by silver and gold ranks. "Attack positions," as they draw their weapons, swords, sickles, battle fans, and war hammer. The humor in the spring shinobi died down when they saw that these people were serious, as Naruto still stood there, not even moving an inch. "No, hold on," the man said, as Nirvana cut him off. "Frontliners, ready. Inventors, ready. Medics, hold," she said. As the soldiers were pissed that their master was just insulted, they were furious. And the medics prepared to run in when the order was given. As Naruto then lifted off the ground silently, Nirvana then slammed their fists together, as green and blue sparks were created when the armor touched, as they morphed into a propeller form, as she then thrust her hand forward as long iron blades came out of them, as they reached at least 4 feet long, buzzing with chakra. "Attack," Nirvana said. The spring soldiers quickly got their wits about them when they saw. The soldiers rushed forward to engage them, as they smashed into each other, as Nirvana clashed against the commanding officer of the spring. A subtle genjutsu was cast, so the spring warriors did not notice that she was giving out all those orders. To them it was just one word that she said. As Naruto looked down, he could just crush all of them. But what was the point of raising a civilization like this? He knew that his dojutsu gave him an unfair advantage against all of his enemies. But that is why sometimes he just sit back and relax, watching the show unfold right in front of him. And not to mention the Sky Warriors, from Platinum to Copper rank. They went through training that would literally break someone. But not them, they had survived Orochimaru torture, so this was hard on them, but not that much. And the resilience was passed on to their children, and their children. There was no point in having soldiers if they did not fight for their king after all. Let them have their fun, Naruto thought, as he hovered over with a smile on his face, watching his soldiers slaughtering the enemy. 30 minutes later, in the palace of the Spring Daimyo, standing at the door, as Naruto looked over at Nirvana, she was covered in blood and guts. After all the rigorous experiments, she was not exactly just human alone, seeing that she had blue scales on her necks, and her eyes looking rather reptilian. Her mouth was filled with needle-like teeth. They would change back once she calmed down, and there was also a tail coming from her tailbone. She closed her eyes as she cooled down her lizard heart, as she calmed herself, bowing to her leader. As she returned back to normal, "Did you have fun?" Naruto asked, as he looked at the 19-year-old mutant, before looking toward the sea of soldiers standing there. At the far back, those who were injured were being tended by medics. No one had died in a scuffle. Well, on his part. The rest of the soldiers were stomping around the capital, dealing with the spring ninjas that didn't heal yet, and making the citizens aware that the country was going to be under new lordship now. And before they leave, they should make them very clear that if Spring tried to revolt against Naruto, nothing would left, nothing at all. It will just be a bloody mess. As Naruto didn't need to have the bulk of his soldiers stay in one country. Just a few would do, to remind this country who their new lord is. Right now, Naruto had a meeting with the ruler, the daimyo, Koyuki Kazahana, as he could already feel the people behind the door blocking it off and arming themselves with their teeth. Quite frankly, it was amusing to him, but he allowed them time to appear inside, so he stood at the door and spoke with Nirvana. "Yes, my lord," she said, "I had a lot of fun." "I apologize for looking so unsightly, my lord," she said. As Naruto waved her words away, it showed that you were fighting with all that you have. "I fight for you, my king. If I do not fight with all I have, then it shows that I'm not worthy to serve you." "That is good," said Naruto. "You, all of you," said the gathered soldiers, "are what good soldiers are meant to be. You have made me proud today, and I want you to continue to make me proud." "Yes, sir," they all said, as they pumped their fists in their air. Inside the palace, it was a chaos. Chairs, pots, table, everything was thrown at the door to barricade it from Naruto's army. In the middle of everything was a stunned daimyo, Koyoke. "You said he can fly," said Koyoke, as Naruto allowed one man to survive the slaughter, so he could go and tell the daimyo. The shivering, bald samurai bobbed his head and looked around. "Yes, ma'am. And his army. His army. They're not human." "Not human? You aren't making any sense," said Koyoke. "The way they moved, the way they fought, it was like they were a single entity. They knew where they all were at the same time, and they never once allowed any opening. The only way to reach them is to stab oneself to reach them, and even that their armor is impenetrable." As he grabbed his hair and pulled as he looked at the ground with wide eyes. "Then there is that demon that led them. The woman with different colors in her ear. The man dropped to his knees and started to cry, as Koyoke started to pace back in front. "What does this Sakai kingdom want to their recently free country?" From the report that the man has given before he fell into chaos, she didn't know. The Sakai soldiers were far surpassing everything she had ever dreamt of, with skills and weapons that they didn't have. She hastily wrote a letter to Konoha, a distress letter, and for the servant to move as fast as possible, with as many valuable as she can take with her, through the tunnel leading outside of Spring and straight to Waterfall, which was still many miles away through a secure tunnel. "Now go," she said as she urged the 13-year-old girl, as she pushed her through, revealing a stairwell that leads straight down, as she made her servants go down as well, as the last servant was waiting for her to come, but she locked it. A few samurais refused to leave, and a few servants as well, as they would stand with her until the very end, but the man that was scared shitless ran away as well. As Koyuki then went and sat down on her throne, her heart was beating very fast. as she felt like she was going to die. As she waited for the King of Sakai to gain entry, from the reports that she had been given, he can, if his army was that powerful. How powerful was the king, she thought to herself. Her remaining guards stood by the side of her throne, 10 in total, as they held their weapons tightly. Also nervous to meet the king that had led the army to best their forces so easily. As everyone watched in shock as the items that were barricading the door started to move by themselves, shuffling aside. The great door then flew open by itself as the soldiers marched in. The warriors stood at the wall quickly as they placed their arms over their hearts, but they kept their eyes on the samurais that were left. As Nirvana then stepped inside, as Koyuki and her man could see a sea of men outside, dressed in their armor. As they gulped at the sight, it was so much of them. Nirvana then slid towards the side, as she placed her right hand over her heart and bowed her head. As all of them watched as the true ruler, the king, took his time to make his way inside. It was obvious that he was a king, the way his mere presence, as it called for respect and fear, is black with red ring eyes, and the kanji for a sky king make it even more obvious to her. Naruto had a small, amused smirk on his face as he walked in, his hands behind his back, his head shaking in disappointment. I can't help but be surprised that you did that, Madam Kazahana. As Koyuki forced up all the courage that she had. Who the hell do you think you are to walk in my land? And she stopped as an unseen force closed around her throat, making it very hard for her to breathe. I am Naruto. As he took a step forward, as the deep thud from his metal boot shook the palace. The guard right beside her head exploded into blood, but not even a drop touched Koyuki. As she was still choking. I am the king, he said, stepping forward. Another guard head exploded, but still no blood touched her. Of the Sakai kingdom. As he took a step up the stairs that lead to her throne, as the palace started to shake by every step that he took. As her eyes started to water as the desperation for her ear called to her. Another guard head exploded as the rest of them jumped forward to attack him. But all of them collapsed on the ground, showing the kunai in the back of their heads. As the golden armor soldiers lowered their hands. And you, said Naruto, taking another step as he stopped right in front of the woman. You have done exactly what I want you to do. As her face was grey as he released the hole, as she started to wheeze and gasp for air, as Naruto placed a hand on her head. Do you really think that I am not aware that you have a distressed letter in a route underneath this palace, in the hands of a child running to Konoha, under your throne? As Koyuki couldn't understand, how did he know that? I can have them killed with the snap of my fingers. As he lifted his other hand and rolled his wrist. But I will not do that, let them know. Let everyone know about the might of my kingdom. And let them prepare as much as they want, they will still get crushed. As he then leaned right beside her ear. And you know that, right, Madam Kazahana? Please, I'll give you anything you want. Just leave my people alone, she said, begging. I want one thing before I leave your country, Madam Kazahana. One thing and life would return back to what it used to be. As he lifted her gaze with his hand. You can stay on the throne and still be the ruler of your people. But you will rule under me. And all of your people have to swear loyalty to me. If not, I will shower the blood of your people on you and turn this country into a hole in the ground. And we both know I can do that, don't we? She nodded immediately and tried to close her eyes because her heart felt like it was about to give out. Just looking at him, the fear that she was feeling was unbearable. Good. I'm glad that we have an understanding. As he patted her cheek and stood back up. He then raised his hand as Nirvana stepped forward as she placed a scroll in his hand. As he gave Koyuki the scroll and turned around. I will send a squad to pick up that scroll at dawn tomorrow. Whether you sign it or not is up to you, but I know that you'll do the right thing. For your people. As he started to walk, but he didn't stop. Oh, and you made the right decision, not stabbing me with your blade. As he could already see that she had a blade, ready to stab him as he was approaching her. But she cared about her people too much to see them get slaughtered after she watched him explode the heads of her guards. As he left the palace, leaving her alone with all the dead bodies and a scroll in her hand. 10 minutes ago, as Indra also gave the lightning daimyo the scroll that Naruto intended for him. As they allowed the man time to think and hopefully make the right decision if he don't want his place to burn. as the man had an extended family, so the choice he gave him was the same as Koyoke, as they were forced to spread the scrolls and sign their names quickly. Outside, as Nirvana opened the door, as her master stepped inside his vehicle. "You've all done exceptionally well. You may stay here and rest for the time being, but do not cause any trouble." "Yes, Lord Naruto," said Nirvana. "I entrust them to you, Nirvana." She nodded and bowed her head slightly. "When the scroll is signed, you and the others can return back home. Wait there for my command." "Understood, sir." "Oh, and also send for the head of Fuinjutsu. Tell her to wait for me at Water Country." "Yes, sir." As the window was wound up, as he told his driver to take off the carry, his soldiers had already been stationed there. His vehicle flickered and camouflaged the sky as it flew through. Everything was going perfect. Meanwhile, the hidden rain. "How many tail beasts do we have now?" A male voice asked from a dark hallway with the other person walking with him. "You don't keep count? I'm positive that you're present when we seal them," another male voice said. "I wasn't around for a while, remember?" the original voice said. "Master regularly sent me to check upon his younger brother. We currently have 4 tail beasts. Itachi and Kisame has said that the 2 and 8 tails had vanished, but Hamato Toshi has updated me that they're in the kingdom," as he was referring to Naruto, head of intelligence and interrogation division. "Impressive. Did he say anything else?" "Well, just that Lord Naruto has begun his plans for world domination." "That is fantastic news," the other man said. "No doubt our other comrade in Akatsuki will be glad to hear it as well," he said, referring to the other mole in the Akatsuki. "So, how is the master younger brother?" At the moment, he's still recuperating in Konoha from his battle with Sasuke Uchiha, Itachi's younger brother. 2 shot over to the chest and dislocated collarbone. Just yesterday, Sasuke tried to defect from the village to find and kill Itachi. It failed though, but he was under house arrest now for the next year. "I pity Sasuke." As the both of them made their way, as these 2 were moles in the Akatsuki for none other than the king. Time skip. "Hey bro." "Yeah?" said a 5-year-old Naruto, as Naruko rests her head on his shoulder. "What are you gonna do when we get out?" she asks. The both of them had just returned from another rigorous experiment, so they were exhausted. "When we get out?" "Yeah, when we get out," she said. "You know what? I'm going to have an ice cream." Even after all the horrors, Naruto simply giggled, as even after everything she's put through, she was still so pure. A ray of sunshine to him on the dark days their life has become. She tightened her hold on his arm and buried her face into his neck when a stone shinobi passed him, but he came and dragged the mother and their child away. As Naruto sighed and closed his eyes at the sight. As Naruto turned when the stone ninja was gone and kissed his sister on the head, as he felt that she had fallen asleep. She was exhausted after all, as he held her really tight, so to make her not fall. The both of them were extremely thirsty, but they knew that water wouldn't come unless their heads were dunked in a puddle of dirty water. I'm gonna eat ice cream with you," he said. Sitting on father's dead body, the both of them thought at the same time. Naruto's eyes snapped open out of his dream when he heard a light cough from his driver. "We're here, my lord." As Naruto got up from his seat, it was long and spacious, enough for him to take a nap before he got to Water Country. A 10-minute nap would have to do for now, as he fully sat up. "Thank you," said Naruto, as the door of the cart was opened by Indra. "I hope you had a pleasant journey here, sir," the man said with his hand over his heart. The other hand was holding the door open for his king. Naruto took a step out, and the thousands of soldiers that had gathered around Water Country snapped to attention, bowing before their lord. "It was fine, thank you, Indra." As his eyes moved around and stopped at the 2 platinum ranks that were there with Indra, Satoshi Todoroki, head of rescue and support, and Magi, head of the Fuinjutsu department. "I see you got the message to come, Magi." The girl bowed deeper as she was acknowledged by her king. "I am happy to have been called by you, my king," she said. One of the Rinnegan ability was to take the soul of the user, but that was not all. He could get the memories from those souls, so to have all of Orochimaru's intellect, but it gave him an idea to who the former slaves were and where they were from. Take for instance, he knew of all their mutants' ability caused by the experiments on them and the history of them. Magi, she was formerly from Kiri, born into a merchant clan that was closely tied with the Toad summoning clan, but no toad-like capabilities. The Gamatomo clan had been a clan that traded in oil, but when the Blood and Mist War erupted, due to the madness of the mizukage, they had been slaughtered, wiped out completely. Magi was hidden in the bushes by her parents, who ran in the other direction to draw the Kiri, ninjas from their baby daughter. Kabuta had picked her out of the bush when the dust had settled and took her to his master. The vile experiments done on her and the constant reminder that she was the last of her clan, that even if she escaped that she would have nowhere to go, broke her resolve to escape. She was a very hard person Naruto had helped, and she was also a Fuinjutsu prodigy. It seemed like she was born holding a brush and a pad. But the thing was, she always berated herself for the smallest of mistakes, as Naruto took it upon himself to boost her confidence so he wouldn't end up killing her in the battlefield. She was amongst the people that Naruto paid close attention to and to help, as she stood up from her bow. As she was holding onto her backpack, it was green, with unicorns dancing on it, with Todoroki right beside her. Your forces are ready to fight for you, King Naruto. That's good. How many are here? 3,000, sir, said Injur, as he closed the door. As he listened to Naruto command to not go overboard with the shinobis, because from what they have seen so far they were weak. Right now Naruto had roughly 46,000 soldiers, and the numbers were still growing. And this was merely a tiny slice of his forces that were brought. Naruto hummed as he extended his arms, as he felt Shinigami presence behind him, as she placed a red coat over his body, a coat long enough to reach his ankles. As he raised his hand for her to stood back, as he put on the 4 buttons himself. I want you to take 2,000 of them to the capital of this country, while I take the rest. Are you sure, my lord? Indra asked. I'm sure. These ninjas haven't proved their threat level to me yet, so I will not take them seriously. I am sure even 500 of my force can take down the capital without a problem. I, too, am sure about that, my king, Satoshi said, as the others nodded in agreement. Keep 1,000 of those soldiers on standby with the others participate. If the water daimyo is stubborn and keep on sending ninjas, then make sure that he's humble and shown who the true master is. Yes, sir. Magi, you will be coming with me. As Naruto started to walk straight into the country with his coat flapping behind him, as Magi rushed towards him with Shinigami, as 1,000 warriors were brought. Sir, wouldn't Indra or Satoshi be better to accompany you? Asked Magi. As she wasn't so much, well, she has changed a bit, but not so much. She was still lacking a bit in self-confidence, but she just wanted her master to be safe. You will be fine, Nerd says he patted her shoulder once. Your particular skill set will be an advantage for us in carrying. As he looked over at his maid, you will speak for me if I do not want to. As she nodded, as the Sakai forces march on behind their king, as a mist started to set in, as it took a long hour of marching for them to reach Karen, as Magi tapped her right ear. Body system seal, she said. As all of them held up the snake hand sign, as she went through hand sign, body seal, activate, she said. As the hands of the soldiers started to glow gold, but they didn't stop marching, and there was a flash that flew from Magi's fingers towards Shinigami and Naruto, until all of their hands turned bright red. The light then vanished after it got to all of the soldiers. All of their right eye blinked red before it turned back to normal, signaling that the body seal was now activated. This seal allowed each soldier to have a projection of each other to know where they are, even in this thick dark mist. Even if the seal got thicker and thicker as they marched forward, they could always see their comrade. Activate sensory seals, said Magi, as all of them tapped the back of their wrists, as they could sense at least a few feet in front of them, but with all of them gathered up so much, they could sense out in a large radius. As Naruto turned towards her and nodded, as she blushed and bowed to her king. Even overpowered it was, the Rinnegan was unable to see through smoke bomb and mist. So with his natural sensory abilities and this enhanced sensory abilities, and the trust that his soldiers had his back, he had nothing to worry about. Magi then spoke into her earbud. Trap ahead, 20 feet away from me. 10 silver and 5 gold ranked soldiers that were specialists in traps disappear into the mist. 5 seconds later, trap disable. Scout out for more and report back with each one you find, she said. Understood, ma'am. Trap found and disable. Trap found and disable. As they rang over the comms, as there was a lot of traps set for them. We have arrived in Kiri, my lord, said Magi, after they made it. Multiple chakra signatures approaching. 40 Kiri ninjas. Naruto could just blow away the mist with his almighty push, but he wanted to see the body system seal in act. As he placed his hands in his pockets and nodded towards Magi to keep speaking. Frontline and support teams 25 to 50, go and deal with them. all of them flew off with the seals that they had on their feet as they went to deal with the incoming ninjas. Each one wielded a weapon and brought it down without remorse onto the shocked ninjas. A few managed to dodge the attack, but they were overwhelmed by the overwhelming amount of numbers. Subdued, the first leader said. "Come back," said Majai. "Roger." The mist lightened as they approached the gates of Kire, as all of the dead bodies were cleared away, as they even go as far as using earth jutsus to clear away the blood that was on the ground, so their king wouldn't have to, well, walk on it. "I'll take out the gatekeeper," said Shinigura, as she was missing out of all the action. "Go for it," Majai said, as she dashed forward her claws. Arriving in a blur, she sliced down at the gatekeeper, who tried to bring out a kunai, but it was sliced, as a sword extended from her coat, and drive right into the gatekeeper's skull, before she vanished again, appearing behind another one, as she sliced right through him, before she flicked her wrist as her sword went back in her sleeve. The gates were opened by the silver ranks as Naruto stepped inside, spread out, and contained the shinobi, Majai said. The Sakai soldiers went into their formation as they spread out, as they went to hold down the village as Naruto went towards the tower with Shinigura and Majai. It has been 3 years now since the Bloody Mist War, and Kiri was still getting back to their feet. So far it has declined new alliances, but it has been calling up their old alliances in Kumo and the Hidden Stone to aid them. But so far only Kumo had sent over money and resources to aid the village. Despite this, Kiri still had powerful ninjas that the war did not kill, as Naruto knew every nook of this village because Orochimaru had secrets on them, and he hid all of that from Orochimaru, as all of that was bred in the academy for his soldiers to know the in and outs of the villages that they were going to conquer. As 2 Kiri ninjas rushed forward to see Naruto, but before they could even make it close, they were struck down by 2 of the silver guards, as their bodies were grabbed and pulled away before they could even drop. The civilians was none the wiser because Naruto was just walking in their street, and they wasn't seeing any guards attacking him or anything because Naruto shinobis were picking them off. You weren't even hearing screams or anything, as they saw Naruto with the 2 females, but they didn't know who either of them were. The alarm then went off blazing as the civilians realized something was up, as all of them started to run back to their home. As Naruto stopped and placed hands in his pockets, waiting for the mizukage. "You sure do have a peer, kid," Mate Rumi said as she walked out from a cafe, as Ayo and Kojiro was behind her, glaring at the attacking force. "May I kill her, my lord?" Majai asked, as she reached over for a knife. Naruto made her calm down, as the 15-year-old girl killer intent was going out of control. Hold on. He then looked towards the mizukage and her guards. "My name is... I don't give a damn what your name is. Killing my shinobis have already sentenced you to death. I merely wanted to make a point. If I didn't, you wouldn't believe my claims," said Naruto. "Claims?" said me. "Yes, my claims. Like my army is far superior to yours. Your village is not even on my danger radar. Like I would order for Kira to be destroyed if there's any interference." "Enough," Mei said as she cracked her knuckles as she looked towards A and Kojiro. Deal with those 2. They nodded and rushed to Shinigura and Majai, as Naruto didn't even move, but rather the 2 females rushed the opposite directions, drawing away Ayo and Kojiro's attention. "Get ready to meet your maker, brat," said Mei. A smile came on Naruto's face. It's been a long time since he used hand-to-hand combat. Might as well have some fun first. She rushed forward as her fist, enveloped in lava, came towards his face, as he shuffled back, as she dashed forward and swung another kick towards him where he ducked under, as she thrust her hand out, despite the intense heat coming from her. He didn't burn, her shirt didn't burn. As his hands were in his pockets, he was just tilting his body, as her fist flew towards his head, as he jumped back. "Stand still, brat," she said, as she went through hand signs, lava release, blooming fire flower, as she fired lava from her mouth that washed over Naruto completely. As she went through another set of hand signs, wind release, killer frostbite. The wind that she blew from her mouth cooled down the lava and made it solid. She then jumped forward, her fist aimed towards him, as he was nothing but a statue now, frozen in her attack. As she smashed her fist right into his face, completely breaking it apart. Boom! The complete top half of his body was gone. Ah, that must be the famous lava release Kekigenkai. She was shocked as she quickly jumped away. She couldn't believe how he got so close to her without her even feeling anything. "I heard that you were the last of your clan." "Huh, How are you still alive? She asks. Simple, really. I move. He move? That fast? I need to end this quickly before he pulls out any more tricks. I'm sorry, my servants are almost done dealing with your subordinates, so I best finish this now. It would be a shame if they thought I was having trouble with you. He could crush her head with the weight of gravity. He could pull her closer and suck out her soul. He could summon an animal that could rip her to shreds, but he wouldn't do that. As he lifted his hands out of his pocket. Come. This time, come at me with all that you have. How did he know that I was holding back, she thought. She shook it off as she dashed forward and he thrust her fist towards him. But he simply smacked it away. Before, he grabbed her by the throat. As he smashed her into the ground with violent force, the ground exploded under the weight. Blood exploded out of her mouth and nose as she did not understand what just happened. A moment ago, she was about to hit him and then she was on the ground. As Naruto then got up and pointed his fist towards her face. It was then that his hand disconnected and smashed right into her face, his fist, making her body go deeper into the ground. His arm then came back to him as he fired off again, smashing into her face. As it came back, as he fired off again, smashing right into her face. As he repeated this Rinnegan ability coming from the Azura path, the hand then flew down and grabbed onto her neck. As he tightened his fist around her throat, the wind started to pick up all around him, making his cloak flap. He tapped her on the shoulders, tapped her on her wrists, tapping her elbows, tap her, making her all of her chakra points close up, leaving them just a bit open to keep her alive, as May gasped out blood from her nose and her mouth. My chakra, she whispered. All close, said Naruto. As he dropped her body with a thud, she tried to move but she couldn't. It was strange. It was like her body was dead, and she was outside of it, and she did not understand. Why am I still alive? Because I want you to be, said Naruto as he squatted down at her side. I want to see the moment you realize you cannot defeat me. She then heard two thud as she slowly tried to move, but her neck wasn't giving her the chance. So Naruto turned her head for her, seeing that she wanted to see so badly. As she saw a beaten, bloody Ao, and Kojiro, who looked like he was dead, as his sword was in his stomach, still glowing. And there it is, Naruto said, turning back her head. Defeat. As Shinigura was wiping off the blood from her knuckles, Kojiro's blood, and Magi had her blades in her hand. Are you happy now? You've won, said May, as she couldn't believe how easy she was defeated. It was like when she was still a little girl learning from her teacher. Yes, I am quite happy, said Naruto. The Sakai soldiers had finished, as they had the Kiri soldiers on their knees, in the center of the village. The civilians were also there, but they were in a separate group. So, what now? You're going to rape me? As her eyes then went over towards Shinigura, in front of her, I bet you get your kicks from that sort of thing. Naruto chuckled, raising his hand for Shinigura to stand down, as she wouldn't have anyone talk to her king that way. If I wanted sex, I could have had it with anyone at any time. But I choose to restrict my choices to those who are willing in my kingdom. Who were many, he said, as people were quickly willing to jump in his bed when he asked them. No, I want a signed agreement that Kiri, and to extension the water country, is a subordinate of the Sakai country, and will also pay a regular tribute to my kingdom. This was all to show you what we can do, a sort of clue to what will happen if you don't agree to my terms. Clue, she said. To put it bluntly, if you decline, I will make Kiri a distant memory. Hundreds, thousands of lives are counting on you now. As he got onto his feet, hearing someone talking in the income in his ear. Division Head Inja calling, sir. Yes, said Naruto. The water daimyo has signed your scroll, my lord. As Inja was holding on to the Kibarabi show, as all the cracks that was on it were getting sealed up because of all the blood that he had gotten from slaughtering down these people. Good, send all the soldiers that are still in Kumo and Spring back to the kingdom. Tell the civilian division to begin a week-long festival starting tomorrow because of our victory. Everyone is invited. As he heard Satoshi in the background, he always liked the festivals, as he knew that he was spreading the good news, and they were all getting excited. Thank you, my lord. Think nothing of it, you all deserve to celebrate. I'm out, he said, as he cut the connection. Naruto then turned back towards the mizukage. So what will it be? Life or death? She slowly turned her head, able to move it now. As she looked towards Kojiro, he was barely breathing, and if the sword wasn't removed from his stomach, he would die. She sighed as she closed her eyes. Life, she said. Good choice. Shinigoro says she dropped the scroll. I will have a squad to retrieve it, but if you try to attack them, it will be null void. Fix him up, said Naruto, as Shinigoro removed the blade from Kojiro. He saw entertainment in that boy. Fight in tournaments and other life and death situations he would throw at him. Your major chakra points will open up in an hour if you don't try to force them open. Make sure you read the scroll in detail. I really hope that you don't try and rebel against me. After all, you are the last of your clan. It would be a shame to see it go extinct. As his royal vehicle then came, he took off his coat and handed it over to Shinigoro before stepping inside, as the king's soldiers waved to him. Wow, King Naruto is just so... Majai heard one of the girls talking. I know, he's so cool, said Majai, as the rest of the vehicles started to come for the soldiers. As Shinigoro made her way over to the other two females, did you know that conquering these 3 countries was just a test to see if we're capable of taking over the entire world? He tested us in all situations, stealth in lightning country, full frontal attack in the spring, and individual and group strength here in water country. Majai scratched her chin. I suspected so. He didn't think that we were capable? As the other girl with him, Nora, replied. Of course he did. Our master has the utmost confidence in our abilities. His other intentions to invade those other 3 countries was to send a message. The Sakai kingdom is here and we are dominating. She yelled as the soldiers with her yelled as well, as she laughed and leaned back. Believe me when I say this, girl, said Shinigoro. Our king, believe in us all. Meanwhile, Naruto was fast asleep in his royal vehicle once again. Time skip. Hokage's office, Hokage's tower. Sir, there are 2 people here to see you. Tell him to come back in an hour, I'm on my break, he said as he swallowed a spoonful of ramen. Sir, they said that is great importance. They all say that, Suki. Tell him to come back later. The woman named Suki started to fidget in place. Spring country was invaded 2 days ago, she said, as this got Minato's attention, as Suki stepped aside as a bald man with chakra armor with blood stain on it, as he kept on looking around the office suspiciously. The girl was in a pink and white dress that went down to her knees, as well as black sandals. She too had bloodshot eyes and her chest looked like she was running all the way from Spring. The 2 bowed towards Minato, an emotion for them to be at ease. Spring is miles away from Fire Country. How were you able to come so fast if invasion was 2 days ago? We first ran to Waterfall, and Lord Shibuki was gracious enough to have a ninja carry me here, the girl said. He can carry himself, she said, pointing at the bigger man, as she stepped forward, as she gave Minato the letter. Minato started to read through it, as it was Rush, Danger, King of Sakai, Invincible, Unstoppable Army, he can fly, Advanced Technology. He will come for the other countries, I might be dead. Please, save my people again. King of Sakai? Where have I heard that before? As he looked towards the 2 scared people that were standing there. I will send some of my ninjas to investigate, but I need to know. What else can you tell me about this King of Sakai? As the girl looked over at the bald man, as she nudged him to speak, the man seemed like he was scared. Lord Fort, he said. I was in the army that was to intercept the King of Sakai before they reached the capital and his soldiers, the man said. As he started to shake a bit, but he calmed himself, the memories flashing through his head. They are nothing but monsters. They move and fight as a unit. They do not know what pain means. As he remembered, none of their blades could penetrate the armor, where there was gold, platinum or silver, nothing. And their king, he did not do any of the fighting. He just floated off the ground and watched us get crushed. Can you describe him for me? Minato asked. He has pale skin, red hair, that looked like they were soaked in blood, and his eyes. He had black eyes with red rings in them. Were they concentric red rings? I mean circles, said Minato, slowly. Yes, the man said. Minato clasped his hands together, as he placed his head resting on them. As it was the same one that Jiraiya had given to him, the same description of one of his students, but he had purple, with black rings, not red. Whenever he asked Jiraiya to elaborate, he said that things come easier for the boy. Taijutsu, ninjutsu, genjutsu. He was a fast learner with those eyes. The Rinnegan. As Jiraiya suspected the child, either a descendant of the Uzumaki or Senju clan. Could it be that there was a more sinister Rinnegan holder out there? But Jiraiya said that the boy had died. And did the different color mean that it was stronger than the original Rinnegan? Was this the former student of Jiraiya? This army of monsters, were they indeed unbeatable? And the kingdom of Sakai, why was it all so familiar to him? Suki, find Kakashi and tell him that the dog need to go for a walk. a code that Kakashi needed to put on the undo mask again. Right away, sir. What's that supposed to mean? Little girl asked as she was offended that this man was going to have a dog walk instead of helping your country. Don't worry about it. I'll have my assistant take care of your needs while you're in Konoha. He then bit his finger before he went through hand sign as he slammed his hand on his desk as a toad appeared. Reverse summon Jiraiya. I need to ask him something about a student he taught some time ago. The toad nodded before heading off. Why did Sakai sound so familiar to him? At that moment he got a flashback of two tiny kids swinging on a swing set, holding hands. I'm gonna call it the Sukai Kingdom, the boy said. The little girl looked over. Why? She asked. Because it's gonna be hidden in the sky. Can I be the queen? The girl asked. Yeah, of course you can be the queen, said Naruto. But guys, be in subs right here for the next part of this, know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. Remember, share to all of your friends in social media platform. But more for now, see you guys soon. Peace.